Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
You can put it on the board! Yes! Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had, probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner, 714-948-0100, 714-948-0100. 0100 again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! And a big round of applause, and welcome into everybody listening in on all of our network affiliates, whether it's TV, radio, everybody streaming on pick your favorite streaming platform. Here on the Sports Circus for the 2000 and who knows how manyth show that we've done. And by the way, with us here today is our longtime producer and friend, Colonel Bucky. Thanks for joining us today, Colonel Bucky.
Good to be with you, Sal. Looking forward to today's talk because we talk a lot off the air as well. So it's good to be on the air and share it with everybody.
And by the way, Colonel Bucky is a broadcast Hall of Famer as well. How do you like them apples, folks? So this guy...
Been in the business a long time, Sal.
Well,
long time.
A hell of a lot longer than I have. And so, of course, without time stamping today's show, we want to be able to let people listen to this as if they just heard it for the first time, maybe even 10 years down the road. Then they can compare and contrast with the content. And look, what do we talk about 95% of the time that we're on the phone? Sports, right?
Absolutely.
Right? Whether it's fantasy football, fantasy baseball, or even hockey. Because remember, before we even started, you weren't really a knowledgeable hockey aficionado, but now you are.
You know, it took the Golden Knights, and obviously one of the great franchises of the 21st century. And speaking of that, I mean, we didn't have a team a hockey team that was, major league in any nature in the state of Ohio until I was 40 years old. I was already in Vegas. So, when it comes to hockey, I only have been exposed to it for, since 2017.
2017, and I remember sitting in the studio with you talking about hockey, and you had made some kind of a comment or something. If the sport is not played with a ball, then it's not a sport at all. And I seem to remember that one rather clearly.
And that was the funny thing, too, because, I can't remember ever knowing what a hockey puck was made of. Is it rubber? I believe it's hard rubber.
Yeah.
But it's obviously not round like you have in golf, basketball, and baseball.
And by the way, golf is a skill game. Like bowling, it's a skill game. Although you may look at them as sports, but let's face it, if you could drink a beer and do it, in my opinion, it's not even a sport in the first place.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it takes physical exertion to do both bowling and golf, and the famous 32 things that you have to actually do. And I'm sure you're familiar with most of them.
I don't know anything about that. You claim there are 32 things that a golfer needs to do before they hit a golf ball, and that sounds like paralysis by analysis to me.
Well, I mean, come on. You have to have your club selection. You obviously need to know the direction of the wind. You need to take in consideration uphill lies, downhill lies. All these things are going through your mind, and you're wondering, okay, I want to go over that tree, or do I want to punch it under that tree? See, these things start to add up after a while.
That's only 4 of them so far, mister. You're missing 28.
Well, I mean, come on, we don't have time. I'm just condensing it down.
That's we tried to.
I think the listeners know the point.
We tried to count these before, and I think you came up with about 17, if I'm not mistaken. And then we even asked a golf pro about it, and they couldn't even come up with 32.
Well, for some people like me, I mean, my handicap is probably a 32. Yep. So maybe that's what I'm referring to.
It very well could be, but either way, today's show is not about golf, and it's not about any of that. But you know what? As sports broadcasters, as we are also fans of sports, and there are people that we really like to listen to that call games. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So
we've had a lot from my area. I'm from the Cincinnati area, so
right.
We've had a few great broadcasters.
Right, and so there are plenty of lists out there, and some of them are missing some players, some are missing others, and you can look at it, but then you look at the American Sportscasters Association, and you say, well, something tells me that they may have a little bit of inside information, or better yet, better metrics of measuring some of these sportscasters. So what they did, they put the ASA's top 50 sportscasters of all times, chosen by their members and a special committee. Now, I don't know what the special committee is, but their choices, let's just do the first 5 and just talk about these for just a quick moment. And number 1, I think everybody would probably agree, is the great Vince Scully. In fact, Vince Scully gets an astounding round of applause here on the Sports Circus, because Vince Scully's one of those guys, I think for 62, 63 years, as the Dodgers play-by-play solo act. Buck, I don't know was there a better broadcaster than Vince Scully?
He was the best baseball broadcaster. I'll give you that. It's almost like your uncle there on the edge of the couch, and he's watching the game right along with you, and he's having a conversation with you. And he did that with his broadcasts. He would say, "Oh, look at that little girl in the stands over there. Doesn't she look cute? What a cutie." Up high and inside, Ron Say is hitting 256. I mean, then he would go back to it. He would finish the story. It may be multiple batters before he would finish a story, but he made you feel like a friend. And I think that's why he was such a great broadcaster, because he turned a slow game of baseball. Face it, in today's day and age, you need that in between, that narration. And he was so good at that, and his storytelling abilities. And God bless the Dodgers for naming the roadway up to Dodger Stadium, Vince Scully Way. I mean, what a great way to honor, because that'll be there as long as the Dodgers play in Dodger Stadium.
That's right. Vince Scully was the master at wiping out dead air. And for all those that don't know what dead air is, please explain that to the audience. And there it is. There's the dead air.
That is dead air. Does that bother you? It really bothers broadcasters, because we know it bothers the listeners. And it probably bothers us more than it bothers you, because we're responsible for the content. So, yes, when there's a lull in the game, that's why Vin was such a great storyteller, because he would tell a story about something that maybe happened, back in 1965, and Sandy Koufax, he was a great guy, and he did all these things off the field, and he would tell a story while he was broadcasting the game. And that's what made it fun, because you never knew who he was going to talk about and what he was going to say about that person. But as you mentioned, 6 decades plus working for the same organization, and famous people too. I mean, remember, it was the Dodgers who famously broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it's 1947 with Jackie Robinson.
Right. And Vince Scully came along, I think, just a couple of years later.
Yeah.
1950, it seems to sink into my mind, but somewhere around there. But yeah, I mean, he knew everybody. He knew how to project a positive image about the Dodgers, because he bled Dodger blue. I bet if he had a scrape on his elbow, there might be some blue in there.
Yeah.
That's how true Vince Scully was to the Dodger organization, and they repaid him with that love as well. And I can't argue with that. Number one, Vince Scully, baseball for sure.
Yeah, and you know what? When we come back from break here, we've just got about 20 seconds left. I want to dive into some of the others on the list, because there are others that we may agree, some we may disagree with. But then again, that's the idea. If we all agreed on everything, what fun would it be in the first place, right or wrong?
No, I agree with you. Yeah, let's have a nice conversation about that.
All right, folks, we're going to be back here with Colonel Bucky right here on the Sports Circus. Lots more to come. Back here in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call
714-948-0100, 714-948-0100, again, 714-948-0100.
or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. All right, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on our affiliates, whether it's independent or network, including our friends over in Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM. Thanks for waking up with us over there. And everybody, thanks for driving home with us over in Auburn, Alabama on WAUD. That's 12:30 a.m., home of the Atlanta Braves. And welcome back to everybody up and down the West Coast and throughout the heartland, all the way over to Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500, KHKA. That's home of the Yankees, 49ers, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. And plus everybody else on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, and WOW Cable Television affiliates in select markets, Hotel TV, in all Nielsen-rated markets, and Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check out that page, Chicago Food Favorites. It's free. We talk about food. We talk about recipes, your favorite restaurants, whatever it is. Just don't spam the page because I'm the administrator and I will suspend you immediately, if you know what I mean. Anyway, folks, make sure you check that out on Facebook, Chicago Food Favorites. All right. Back here with Colonel Bucky, our longtime producer, Broadcasting Hall of Fame member, and this is about sportscasters. We're all sports fans. That's why we listen to this show. That's why we talk about it on this show. And in the first segment, Bucky and I talked about Vince Scully, the great Vince Scully, arguably the best baseball announcer of all time. But here's a guy that comes in a very close second, and that is your ringtone. When you call me Mr. Dallas, that's the great Mel Allen. Mel Allen. You know, Mel was one of those guys, and it didn't matter whether it was Yankee baseball or This Week in Baseball. Let's face it, Mel Allen is technically the voice of the Yankees. He's always been called the voice of the Yankees. Allen called games for the Yankees from 1947 to 1964 when he was fired without an official reason. Eventually, he returned to the Yankees TV booth in 1977 till 85, the first voice of the popular This Week in Baseball. Allen was known for his most notable catchphrase, "How about that?" Allen was one of the two first winners of the Baseball Hall of Fame's Ford C. Frick Award, given annually for a broadcaster's major contributions to baseball. I'll tell you what, Mel Allen, arguably one of the best of the best. What do you think, man?
I think it's well-deserved. I can't argue with that. Again, going along with the baseball theme, that's when I was introduced to him, when he did that. This Week in Baseball. And it was a very distinct voice, and the timing was perfect. And you just knew that this guy was somebody. I mean, after all, he was the narrator of This Week in Baseball. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't know the long history that you just mentioned, but the voice, no question. So I would put him definitely in the top 10 for sure.
Yeah, when you think of This Week in Baseball, you just think of the song, you think of everything. This was something we looked forward to every week, like on a Saturday, for example. It was always, let's watch This Week in Baseball. Of course, before the games were actually played on a Saturday anyway, when they had the game of the week and whatnot, right? These were the games. These were the things that we looked forward to. I don't know about you, but I certainly did, and most of my friends that were ball players, we did as well.
Absolutely. I mean, if you were even mentioned in This Week in Baseball, then you did something special. And again, this is before the cable networks and all that. This is, going back a ways. And that's what made it so special.
Oh, yeah.
We were on that weekly program because, there were only, 3 networks back at that time, too. So, yeah, a little different, but certainly I would not argue with the placing.
Yeah, and honestly, everybody can hear the This Week in Baseball theme song in the background. And when I hear that, it's kind of like hearing the song for the Olympics, or when it was the ABC's Wide World of Sports. Remember that? The thrill of victory and the agony of defeat.
You would always, you've seen it, 100 times, that poor skier coming off that whip.
Yeah.
And then wiping out. But you can't look away. That
No.
was the thing.
No.
The thrill of victory, and you're right there with him.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
the agony of defeat, and you're right there with him, too.
Yeah, that was, buddy, that was just one of those things you're like, and you have to watch it over and over every time, even though you've seen it 100 times, maybe 500 times.
Yeah.
You still have to do what? You've got to watch it, and you have to watch the legs and the arms and his stuff fly all over the place. But
You
Mel
can't look
Allen,
away. You know it's coming.
Yes.
You know it's going to hurt, but you can't look away.
you absolutely have to watch it. And it's the same thing when because 12:30 at my time in Chicago as a kid, it was what? It was all about Mel Allen. And as soon as I heard his famous words, right? And you know what his famous words were, don't you? Come on now. I know you know it. Let's see if you could sing along with us, because Mel Allen was one of those guys. And let's see if we could pull this up here.
So foul. San Diego Zoom Boom. 11 on a roll. Milwaukee mug shots, complete with fingers prints. Take 12, St. Louis. High-speed, automatic pennant drive. No stop down from Motown. The Tigers develop the touch. Snap decision, snap shots, enlarging the overexposed Yankee hypo. And switch cameras, catch action. Photo finishes everywhere. From cheers to tears, all the shots that are fit to print, moving frame by frame on This Week in Baseball.
That started at 12:30 p.m. every Saturday, and I never wanted to miss his preview. That was a preview from April of 1982, by the way, folks. That was a long time ago. Of course, we don't want to timestamp this, but when that came on, I was glued to the TV. It's kind of like the theme to Happy Days, right? That would come on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Central Time. You had to watch it. And you felt cheated if you didn't get to watch the beginning of Happy Days, just the theme song, in the same way you almost felt cheated with the preview from This Week in Baseball and Mel Allen.
And let's really, put ourselves in that kind of time frame, the Mel Allen era. And, baseball was followed. People would go to the newspaper the next day, how did my favorite team do? How did my favorite player do? He went 2 for 4, had a walk, and Steve Carlton got the win. Whatever the case may be. But you're right. Whenever you heard Mel Allen's voice, you knew that something big was going on. And again, a weekly show like that, you had people from all over the country that were watching that, and that was big, especially for the time frame. But I like the list so far, Sal. I can't argue with Mel Allen being number 2.
No, Mel Allen was number 2. And another guy that you may be familiar with that did broadcast from where? From the catbird seat. And that would be the great Red Barber. Of course, Red Barber began his career in Cincinnati back in 1934, ran through 4 years there. However, Barber's greatness on the mic took shape as the voice of the Dodgers before Vince Scully when they were in Brooklyn for 15 years, starting in 1934. And from there, he spent 13 years calling the Yankees games from 1954 to 1966. And, of course, Bartable quips include the can of corn and, of course, the catbirdsey, which, of course, Hawk Harrelson, the great Hawk Harrelson, a lot of people didn't like him. I sure liked him. He was at the beginning, at the top of the show of the Sports Circus when saying, you can put it on the board, yes. That's his home run call. But a lot of his stuff he got from who? The great Red Barber. How do you like them apples, folks? So we're digging way back in the time machine. How do you feel about Red Barber being on that list as well?
I have a neutral opinion. I don't know Red Barber that well. It was before my time, and I'm not familiar with the history behind those sayings. But now that you say can of corn, I mean, everybody knows that saying if you're a baseball fan.
Right, and people know it today.
No idea that Red was the one that started it.
Right, and it was Ken Harrelson, Hawk Harrelson, the guy that kept it alive for Red Barber because he was a big Barber fan. And, of course, that's why this generation knows it because of Ken Harrelson when he was calling the White Sox for all those years, fired as the general manager because he wasn't a very good one as we finish up the segment here, but also he was one hell of a broadcaster. A lot of people liked him, and he was the ultimate homer. I absolutely love that he called games because, man, he knew the game. He was a pretty good player, not a very good executive, but, boy, that guy could broadcast. Tell you what, folks, when we come back, we're going to continue on this list with our own Hall of Famer. That would be Jim Dallas, but you can call him Colonel Bucky, and myself, your ringmaster, back here in just a few minutes on the circus. Don't go anywhere. I'm your ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime, nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello, Americans. It's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
That's ridiculous.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. Folks, if you don't know what the Italian beef sandwich is, go read about it at alsbeef.com. alsbeef.com. These are the creators of that glorious sandwich, and it is good. It kicks the daylights out of that nonsensical, horrific Philly cheesesteak sandwich, of course, that a lot of people seem to like, but of course we give it an astounding round of booze. That would be me, not necessarily our audience, but I'm giving it a round of booze because I can, if you know what I mean. Nonetheless, make sure you check them out again at alsbeef.com. And they have been in business for nearly 100 years, serving up tremendous food. Check them out online as well and pick up yours today. All right, welcome back to everybody on TV and radio. You know who you are. Here with Colonel Bucky, James Dallas, who is a member of the Broadcasters Hall of Fame right here in the state of Nevada. And we are talking about really good, holy smokes, wow, we want to listen to these broadcasters. But I have to say, there's a couple in here I want to mention real quick before we get on to the ones that we don't like. I do want to mention the great Jack Brickhouse. And for those that don't know Jack Brickhouse, he was one of those guys that, well, I guess if you were in or around Chicagoland, you knew who this guy was. Jack Brickhouse broadcasting career began when he was at 18 in a very small town in Illinois called Peoria. And he eventually made his way up to the big city. Best known for calling Cubs games, notably on WGN from 1948 to 1981. He was the play-by-play voice of course, the crosstown rival White Sox also as well. He covered 3 World Series nationally for NBC, called the Chicago Bears games from 1953 to 1977 on radio, and did play-by-play for the Chicago Bulls on WGN from 1966 to 1973. And Brickhouse was a 1983 recipient of the Frick Award, and he was one of the really, really good ones. You know, Jim, I used to come home from school, and I'd probably get home from school as a kid, maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and I'd be home right around the 8th inning when at the Cubs games when it was on TV on Channel 9, WGN in Chicago, and I'd always be able to catch the back end and then the 10th inning show. And, of course, I always wondered what would happen if it went into extra innings, and now the 10th inning, well, it's like, wait a minute. We just had the 10th inning, and now we're in the 17th inning, but now we're having the 10th inning show. Did I miss something as a kid?
No, you didn't. I'm sure that they would clarify that at the beginning of the broadcast. They would probably say, well, just like you're talking about here, you're going, well, obviously the game went 13 innings, but this is really the 14th inning show. We're still going to call it the 10th. Yeah, right. I mean, that's an uncomfortable position, but I'm sure that didn't happen.
No, I know. I mean, look, let's face it, it's just a trademark name and so forth, but Jack was one of the best in the business, and I really enjoyed listening to him as a kid. That was back when I did root for the Cubs when I was a kid and I didn't know better. But then again, ironically, the next guy on the list is a guy by the name of Jack Buck, who did what? He announced for the rival St. Louis Cardinals for a whole bunch of years. And you know what, Jack Buck? Give you a nice round of applause. And once the Cubs dealt off Bruce Sutter to the Cardinals, that was it for me. I said, that's it. No more Cubs anything. They play 162 in the year. I want them to lose 162.
Well, what about when they traded away Greg Maddux?
Oh, I didn't. I was already gone. I applauded that because he went away from the Cubs, which made them even worse. So for me, I mean, that was an astounding round of applause for them. But Jack Buck was one of those guys you could listen to for hours and hours, right?
Another great broadcaster. He made you feel like you were part of the game. He didn't insult your intelligence, and I think that's the big part of being a great broadcaster is you don't talk down to the listener. I mean, the listener is smart. They're there every week. They have a relationship with you, and he epitomized that. And of course, he passed that gene along to his son, who does Monday Night Football now. So, yeah, it kind of runs in the family. But, you know, there's a lot of second-generation broadcasters out there. And one of my favorites, Sal, Marty Brenneman, he did the play-by-play for the Cincinnati Reds for nearly 50 years.
Yeah, he did.
From 1974 up until, I don't know, recently. Not that many years ago.
Right.
And certainly was one of the best, and his son got into broadcasting too. So
yeah, we've had Tom on the show. Tom's a good guy. I like Tom. In fact, one of our favorite shows is with Tom Brenneman. We just had a great dialogue on here. You know, he had some issues, whatever, but Tom is one of those guys that you could sit there and talk with, whether it's over your favorite adult beverage or not. You could just sit, watch a game with him, and he's got a million stories from him being a kid with the big red machine, being in the locker room and stuff like that, in the clubhouse, having a good old time, and growing up with these guys.
Well, but listening to Marty, you always would wait because you knew his catchphrase after the Reds would win the game. You know, you're just waiting for it. You're anticipating it. You know it's coming, but you still want to hear it from Marty because you've been listening to him for decades. And after a win, you know, it's Reds 4 and the Cubs 1, and this one belongs to the Reds.
Anytime the Cubs lose, I always give a nice round of applause. Oh, by the way, right. And by the way, we just have to say our last one on the good list, because there's just so many good ones. We'll give Al Margles a nice round of applause. We'll give the great Keith Jackson. He's my favorite college football announcer. Oh, Nelly! He was one of those guys, and there's just scores and scores of these guys. But I have to mention, since we did mention the Cubs and White Sox and the Cardinals, this list would never be complete without the great Harry Carey. Now, of course, he was known, of course, for having some drinks with some of his listeners and some of his fellow fans with those big Coke bottle-sized glasses and downing a few while he was calling the games. Holy cow, that kind of stuff. And let's face it, after a long ball, that's what he did. But beginning in 1945, Harry was the voice of the Cardinals for 25 years, for all those that don't know. And, of course, following a brief stint of Oakland, Carey spent 11 years calling my beloved Chicago White Sox games. And the only reason he left Jimmy Pearsall, it was a great sidekick for him. He left the White Sox, did not want to leave the city because he didn't want to be on pay TV. And the White Sox went to a channel called Sports Vision. That was when they won the American League West in 1983. The next year they went over to Sports Vision. In 1984 was the year that he went over to the Cubs because he didn't want to move. So he stayed in Chicago and just announced on free TV where he wanted to be on WGN. That's the only reason he went to the Cubs, not because he was a Cub fan. In fact, he had a lot of sour words for the Cubs, for all those that didn't know.
And I believe 1984, you can fact check me here, but I know it's in the same neighborhood that, remember, it was Old Man Wrigley that said years ago, baseball is a daytime game. No lights at Wrigley Field. And if memory serves, it was right around that 1984 time when Wrigley finally installed lights and had night games. Up until about that time.
8-8 of 88.
8-8?
8-8 of 88 was the first night game. And here's a bit of trivia. That first night game was actually called for rain. So they didn't even count that one. So it was really 8-9 of 88 for all you trivia seekers out there. That was the first official night game at Wrigley Field.
Was it that late in the late 80s? Yeah, I thought it was mid 80s, but yeah, that certainly would shock a lot of young people today. They go, what do you mean? Baseball is a day game. You can play baseball anytime you want to. In Alaska, they play the midnight game.
You got that right, Jack. So here in the last minute and a half of the segment, I do want to mention, and I'm gonna start going the other direction with this. Probably my least favorite announcer historically, not today, because I'll get to that in a little bit, is Howard Cosell. And Howard was arguably one of the biggest antagonizers and instigators in the broadcasting world, but he was so rough on the ears to me. Take about 30 seconds to talk about Howard in your opinion.
I think Howard was full of himself. He was very pompous. He was educated, but I think he was educated to the point where he was obnoxious. And it's nice to have wit, but is overwit a word? I think he wanted people to accept the fact that he was the smartest in the room, and he rubbed it in while he was doing it, and he enjoyed it. And he made people feel uncomfortable, and he enjoyed that too. So, yeah, I'll agree with you.
Yeah, Howard, he did go to NYU. He was a smart guy. Look, he was a smart guy, but it's not like he went to graduate school, PhD. He didn't do all that stuff, but he did talk a pretty good game. But boy, was he difficult on the ears. And you know where that came from? He was born in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and he took that arrogance from Winston-Salem and that chip on his shoulder up to New York, and it only got worse. Tell you what, we're going to continue on with this with Colonel Bucky, Broadcasting Hall of Fame member James Dallas, in just a few moments here on the Sports Circus. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196.
Do a search on how to get out of credit card debt, and you'll find everything from crazy promises to ways you can try to do it yourself. Many of those ideas just don't work, and they leave you broker than you were. Here's some advice. Call our debt helpline. In a quick and free 5-minute conversation, our experts will listen to you and learn about how much credit card debt you have, what your goals are, and then show you the right solution to help you get out of credit card debt with one new simple, affordable payment. The credit card companies make available special programs to help if you're struggling. All it takes for you to finally get out of credit card debt is one quick, free phone call. So please call right now.
800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. 800-948-6817. That's 800-948-6817. Paid for by the Debt Helpline.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as I mentioned, Deezer, Stitcher, and all the others as well, even on YouTube, which I did mention as well. I'm going to keep mentioning them because I can. Also, make sure you check out the store. There is a store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of hats and hoodies and t-shirts and sweatpants and travel mugs and coffee mugs and mouse pads and pillows, all kinds of neat stuff at thesportscircus.com. Click on store, and that is across the top, one of the tabs, and check out all the goodies. They're all made in these United States of America, and mention my name in your order, and we'll give you 10% off. All right, welcome back to everybody on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates and independents from coast to coast. Everybody listening in or watching on our cable providers in select markets: Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wow Cable Television, Hotel TV, and over 500,000 rooms. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook and everywhere else, I think even on the Mars rover as well. Our old guy, Colonel Bucky, that's our old producer, who has been with us since, 2017, so it's been a minute. He is with us today, Broadcasting Hall of Fame member. And by the way, that Mars rover bit was by somebody that was with us back in the day, and that was probably, we were talking about favorites and least favorites, broadcasters and personalities and whatnot. And you know, Mr. Colonel Bucky, I think Long Beach Lenny may not have been your favorite person in the world, but we sure had some pretty good chemistry between us.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of back and forth. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, well, some of it was a little bit of, little bit of punching, and some of it was for Kid Dynamite. Remember Kid Dynamite? Because we would have him do a read for the show. He was an intern, folks, for the show back many years ago. And it's like he would get 88, 89, and 90% of the way through it, and then he'd mess it up somehow, and he'd basically blow himself up. And that's a guy by the name of Malik Ricks. If you ever see Malik Ricks around, he started right here on the Sports Circus, along with Colin Frazier with the Chicago Blackhawks. He won a couple of cups, one with the Chicago Blackhawks, one with the Los Angeles Kings. Colin got his start here on the Sports Circus as well as some other people that have been with us over the years. And, it's been a lot of fun, Jim. And we've had some people that we like. And remember, what was her name? It was the Cougar. You remember we had the Cougar sound. Whenever she came onto the show, she was in studio.
Right, yeah.
What was her name? It was, for goodness sakes, I can't remember her name. Boy, she was...
I can't either.
She was fun.
Was this with the kettlebells?
No, not the kettlebells. No, this was...
Yeah, LaRue.
No, not Chesty LaRue from the Sin City roller derby. No. This was the lady from the Chamber of Commerce. And for the life of me, she was an Italian lady. I cannot remember the name of her name offhand. But anyway, she always made me laugh. And whenever she had said a comment on air, we would play the Cougar sound for her. Remember that?
Right. Yeah, I do. The name escapes me as well.
Right.
But I'm older than you, so that's
a good excuse. Please. Just enough with that old stuff. I don't want to hear that crap. All right, speaking of which, all right, let's get back to, all right, so Howard Cosell we mentioned. Now we're going away from the favorites, maybe to some of our least favorites. Do you have a least favorite broadcaster?
You know, he was a nice guy. He was a 15-year-old pitcher back in World War II. His name is Joe Nuxall. He played for the Cincinnati Reds. And Joe had a great career, and because of the shortage of baseball players during the war, he was a young kid, and he actually made his major league debut at that tender young age. After he got out of playing Major League Baseball, he went up to the booth, and he worked with Marty Brennaman, who we mentioned just a little while ago, one of the great broadcasters of all time. Well, the seventh inning would be Joe Nuxall's inning. And Joe had this knack of not being able to pronounce, like, the word pitch. It would come out like, and the 3-2 pitch. I mean, it was a speech impediment, I guess, but it used to drive us crazy because, you know, he had that one inning. That was his moment to shine, and, you know, Marty got a break, and you knew what inning it was because Joe was filling in, and with all his imperfections. He was lovable in one sense because you kind of felt for him, and he lived off of that fame from when he was a 15-year-old pitcher. But, if there was anybody that I didn't think that should be a broadcast professional, I guess it would be Joe. And no offense to Joe, God bless his soul. But, he had that speech impediment that drove us crazy.
So I got one for you here. And now I have a clip from Cleveland's Channel 19 from their television broadcast. And that's a handful of years ago. Mind you, this charade has been going on for many years now. And this one talks about a little bit of backlash over a particular female play caller. Let's see if I can pull this one up here. So bear with me, folks. And again, this is live. Anything could happen. Here it goes. Let's see. It's spinning, and we're waiting for it to show up. So bear with us for just 5 more seconds or so. Let's see. It's loading up, and let's go ahead and play this. You know what we're going to do, folks? Because we can. Just because we can, we're going to go ahead and skip the ad, and let's see if this thing works. All right. So as this thing loads up, you got to realize, folks, the anticipation and we're really basically killing the dead air right now. But you see, this is the same idea. You would almost rather hear the dead ear or the chatter before this particular broadcaster, in my opinion, gets on air. And of course, I have to say in my opinion, but then again, that's what happens. Here we go.
Well, the announcer in the game may have gotten just as much attention as the players, if not more.
A lot of people not happy that a woman was doing play-by-play. Didn't like her voice, didn't like that she never played the game. 19 News anchor Nicole Verzanski in the newsroom now with the backlash. Nikki.
Yeah, who would have thought the play-by-play announcer would get this much attention for the game? Look, Beth Mowins has been broadcasting games for 25 years, but a lot of people simply upset because they didn't want to see a woman in that role.
And it's picked off the deflection. And headed the other way with it is Denzel Ward and into the end zone.
Twitter lit up with comments, mainly critics, but here's a fan saying her words and delivery are great. She's getting roasted on Twitter by men who don't like her voice. This says everything about barriers women run into every day. Here are a few emails that we received here at 19 News. This viewer says, today was the first time in my life I turned the volume down on a football game. That female announcer is terrible. And here's another. I don't like a female announcer for the Browns game. It's a matter of preference that I prefer male announcers. I will find another way to watch football, but not on your channel.
I am absolutely right there with her. And Beth Mowins, in case you don't know, Beth Mowins, she's been in the rodeo for a minute, and she does play-by-play work for the four-letter network, CBS, and Marquee. Of course, Marquee, we're going to give them a nice astounding round of boost because that's the Cubs network, because you know how much I love the Cubs. But the reality is she's never played professional football. She played college basketball, whatever. She sounds, Jim, this is my opinion, she sounds like a damn game show host. Seriously.
She doesn't. I think it's not necessarily the gender of the play-by-play announcer. It's how it sounds to the ear.
Yes.
People have to understand there's background noise there. The crowd is going crazy. The female voice is at a higher pitch than the male voice. It's so much easier to hear the male voice because it's a lower tone. It's a lower pitch. It's so much easier to hear when you hear all that static, that background noise of a sporting event. And I think that's the main thing, but certainly I heard the same thing. I was watching the Las Vegas Bowl, and the first thing I noticed was her voice. And I said, what in the world is this? And again, it's not gender. It's the pitch and the sound of the audio that's coming out. And that's all my ears are hearing. And they're not hearing what they should be hearing because of that difference.
Well, I have the same issue here in the last minute or so of the show. I have the same problem, but I also have the issue with, yes, we have octave ranges, but more importantly, we have regular dialogue, just like you and I are having right now, versus a game show. Well, Jim, tell them what they got for you. You know, that kind of thing. And it seems to sound like a game show host to me, and it's so, I don't know, there's a lack of genuine delivery, in my opinion. You know, Syracuse has their idea for broadcasting and so forth, like some other schools do. And she's from that area originally. But I got to tell you, buddy, I'm not the only one that feels this way. And I'm looking here on Reddit. There are hundreds and hundreds and thousands of comments. Here's one of them. It says, Beth Mowin is terrible. This is by r/ESPN, by Aldo Cass, 1935. Please get rid of this announcer, whether male, female, trans, bi, LGBTQ, or whatever group or gender species Beth belongs to does not matter, or reason for this post. If you spend all of your life knowing and watching football a certain way and hearing guys like Chris Berman, Keith Jackson on college football, now all of a sudden these sports networks nerds decide they were going to join the political correctness nonsense, and you listen to this Beth Mowins, it is a cringe. Worst announcer ever. And that's one of 100 that I could see right in front of me. Tell you what, buddy, we're out of time, and I have the same exact feeling. Do you, yes or no?
I do 100%. I definitely think that that not everybody should be a national broadcaster.
You got that right.
If you check a box, some DEI box, that's not a good enough reason for the viewers and the listeners. And that's what really should be counting with these executives.
That's right. And folks, that's going to do it for today's show. I'm your ringmaster, Sal. Big thanks for Colonel Bucky joining us today. He gets the super applause. Yes! And we'll see you in about 23 hours right here, as he always said, on your favorite station. Of course, I got that from Colonel Bucky, just like it's a circus, and we prove it every day. So long, everyone.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-476-6087. 800-476-6087. 800-476-6087. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details. Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA. the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.